I looked over and, I got Evander Holyfield to my left and I got Roberto Duran to my right, and then I thought, man, I've made it. I'm here. This is it. There was a matchmaker out of Youngstown, Ohio. He said, "Hey, you want to fight?" And I said, "No, I'm done. So I'm retired. I'm through with it. I'm going to get a real job. I'm going to be a regular person. I'm getting out of this crazy life." And he said, "Well, what about fighting Evander Holyfield?" And I said, "Evander Holyfield." He said, "Yeah, Evander Holyfield's making a comeback. Would you be interested?" I said, "What are they paying?" He told me what they're paying, and I said, "Tell them I'll take half. Tell them I'll probably do it for free just to have the opportunity to get in the ring with Evander Holyfield." He said, "There's a list of about 300 people, and he said, well, you're on the list." I said, "Well, okay." So 2 weeks later, he calls me back. He says, "Hey, man, you never believe this." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And there's been so many ups and downs in the sport of boxing that I've had. I thought, well, there's been so many times I almost had something great happen to me, and it just got ripped away. I wasn't gonna set my sights on something, fighting your hero like that, He calls me back about 4 days later, and he goes, "I was actually, I was an insurance agent, and me and my boss had gone down to Office Max, Parkersburg, Ohio. I'll never forget it." And he said, "Jeremy," and I said, "Yeah," and he said, "Man, you got this fight." I said, "Yeah, right." And he goes, "Man, I'm serious." He said, "You're going to fight Evander Holyfield in Dallas, in August." And I had to stop. I sat down on one of the displays for the desk chair. I said, "Dave, are you serious?" And he goes, "I swear to God." He goes, "Where can I fax this contract to?" I called, my girlfriend at the time. I said, "Hey," I said, I think I'm going to fight Evander Holyfield." And she's like, "Yeah, right." I said, "No, I just signed the contract." I said, "They called me a few weeks back." I hadn't told anybody. There have been so many things in boxing that, I had almost done, and people thought, "Oh, this is going to happen," and then it's always such a big letdown. So I didn't say a word. My mom and dad didn't know. About 9 o'clock, I was sitting in my recliner, and my cell phone just goes off, and I'm like, whose number is this? And I didn't recognize the number, so I ignored it. And then it went off again, and I'm like, man, whose number is this? So I ignored it, and then it just kept going off, man. I'm like, man, I said, why are all these people calling me? Finally, a friend of mine from Ashland, I'd been living in Parkersburg for 4 years, hadn't spoke with him in probably 2.5 years. I said, picked it up, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" He goes, "Hey, man, are you fighting Evander Holyfield?" And I said, "Yeah, I think, man. How'd you know that?" He goes, "Man, it's all over ESPN." He said, "Turn it on." So I flipped over and scrolling at the bottom, it said, Evander Holyfield fights basically a no-name fighter from Kentucky or from West Virginia. And for months, people would call me every single day and say, "Man, that's got to be such an honor, to be able to go in there and fight your hero. Man, you are so lucky. You're the luckiest guy in the world." I kept hearing how lucky I was. And when after the announcement's made and, everybody's out of the ring and it's just the referee and I'm looking across the ring and there's Evander Holyfield looking at me, and he is a mean-looking guy, man. And that thought ran through my head, "You are so lucky." And I thought, screw them, man. They don't know what I'm looking at.